Physical monuments eventually erode and turn to dust, but a logic of governance, if codified effectively, can persist long after the stone has crumbled. In the 4th century BC, India was in a state of internal collapse. Corruption defined the ruling Nanda dynasty, and ancient religious values were being pulled apart by contradictory interpretations. This internal decay invited an external catalyst. Alexander of Macedon arrived with an army and a culture that were entirely alien to the subcontinent, exploiting the political vacuum left by the regional rulers. Chanakya observed that facing a foreign military while the internal administration was collapsing required a complete redesign of the state's power structure. He was a pragmatic scholar who realized that traditional Dharma alone was no longer sufficient to unite a people against an organized invader. Chanakya allied himself with the young adventurer Chandragupta Maurya, guiding him through a violent campaign to dismantle the Nanda Empire. Their immediate strategic goal was achieved. They expelled the Greek garrisons and consolidated a massive territory spanning the Indus and Ganges plains. They had physically conquered a massive territory, but Chanakya knew that physical borders are always temporary, and he set out to build an intellectual framework that could sustain them. He produced the Arthaśāstra, a systematic blueprint for statecraft that prioritized the survival of the state above all other allegiances. His foundational thesis was that a kingdom's strength relied on the methodical collection of taxes and a constantly replenished treasury. This silver punch-marked coin is archaeological evidence of that unified economic system. By standardizing exchange across the subcontinent, he integrated a sprawling agrarian economy into a single machine. To protect this wealth, Chanakya codified the dagger tools of statecraft: espionage, strategic intrigue, and the systematic sowing of dissension to weaken enemy fortresses. These methods were not born of malice, but were a calculated shield designed to prevent a vulnerable society from collapsing back into chaos. Despite these ruthless methods, Chanakya demanded a strict moral code from the ruler. He introduced the concept of the saintly king, an individual bound by duty rather than personal desire. His logic was interdependent. Wealth was the essential pursuit, but only because it provided the material base required for charity and personal fulfillment to exist. He placed rigid limits on royal power, decreeing that a king must never govern in isolation and was strictly forbidden from testing the loyalty of his ministers through malicious or poisonous means. In Chanakya's system, absolute power was permanently anchored to an absolute duty to ensure the people's welfare. To ensure the state's survival, he also sought to regulate human nature through a second work, the Chanakya Niti. He argued that wealth should be distributed only to the virtuous and the wise, because they have the capacity to multiply those resources for the benefit of all. He compared wealth to the rain cycle. Just as the sea provides water to clouds, which then rain over the earth to rejuvenate it, resources given to the wise nourish the entire society. He also provided a psychological warning. Because human cravings for wealth and life are naturally insatiable, lasting fame can only be achieved through disciplined conduct. By codifying these personal morals, Chanakya attempted to create a self-regulating society that would require less intervention from the state. The first 3 Mauryan kings governed with immense success, but eventually their physical empire vanished from the map. While the borders disappeared, the concept of a Rashtra, an undivided, unified nation, remained fixed in the collective consciousness of the people. The administrative systems he established, covering everything from taxation to foreign policy, provided the blueprint that future Indian rulers would attempt to replicate for centuries. Records from this era suggest that after these unified systems were implemented, the borders remained secure from major foreign invasions for a full millennium. The armies and fortresses of the 4th century BC have all been destroyed by time, but the codified ideas in these texts have survived. Kings and their wealth are temporary, but a system designed around the enduring mechanics of human behavior achieves its own form of immortality.